Hi everybody, Velmon Metha here, and thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. Again, for those of you that don't know, I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, but basically I've been reading fanfic for over 15 years, and one of the main site that I started reading fanfic on had a feature, called favorites listing, so you put your favorite fanfics on there, and I decided my list got really, really bloated. It had over 1,200 stories on there, so I decided to reread them all in order of publication date to see whether they still deserve to stay on my list after all these years or not. I'm in the middle of the of 2011 right now, so still got over almost a decade of fix to go, and I think considering it got like 700 stories left, I think this is gonna go for another 2 years or so. But hey, I'm glad you guys are here again. These are just my opinions on whether these things really hit me or not, and links for all these are in the description down below. So let's get started. For the first one is Absolute Loyalty by Rex Timms. And this is a Harry Potter fic that takes place during the Chamber of Secrets, which is Harry's second year, and it's about Harry and Luna basically bonding over their, you know, myriad of problems during the school year. But the problem is there's only 2 chapters, so we really only get to see a little bit of their friendship before the story just ends. Which is really a shame because like the opening paragraph like sets up like in the future this is Luna thinking back about their friendship in the past, and it sets up a hell of an interesting setting in the future, which we never really get to see. But what we have is still really nice. Like it's a lot. It's just a it's not a huge amount. It's pretty short, but the emotions and the writing and like the connection you feel with the characters feels really genuine. Like Harry and Luna, like are both in this played as like broken kids, but they're how they mesh and like learn to lean on each other, and their blooming friendship is so feels so genuine that I really liked it a lot. Um, I, I, I've said it like there's not much here, um, and so if you come read this, I'm sure you'll probably leave feeling disappointed. But at the same time, even the little bit that is here of this blooming friendship was so enjoyable for me. I wouldn't mind coming back to this again and again, even if I get frustrated by the lack of content, and I'm sure you will too. But I enjoy this small glimpse into a possibility, and it's gonna stay on my list. But I don't blame anybody if they would be like really frustrated by the lack of content. Next is another Harry Potter fic. This one's called Just One More Level by Stephen Warner, and this is a crossover with World of Warcraft. And it's not a crossover with the actual universe of Warcraft per se. It's just a crossover with the game. By that I mean it's literally Harry at the end of fifth year decides to try playing World of Warcraft, and through an attack gets sucked into the game. Not like the actual world, but just the game world where he's playing with other people on servers, queuing up and raiding and stuff like that. uh, and then afterwards he eventually finds his way back out of the game, back to the normal world, and then deals with the whole Voldemort issue in basically a couple of days. So the story is basically pretty straightforward. It's Harry, playing character, leveling up, and then coming out and then whooping ass because he comes out as his character with all the skills and magic that he's learned from the game. And that part is kind of boring. Like the best parts are when Harry's stuck in the game, and it's not even because of Harry; it's because of Hermione. When Harry's stuck in the game, we get split between Harry's time in the game and Hermione freaking out because she's lost her best friend, and like her dealing with it. And that part, those scenes are the most are honestly the only emotional parts of this story, and the only time where it feels compelling. The rest of it is just, literally like a World of Warcraft quest. So you go there, fetch that, go over here, do this, and it just becomes dull. You know, I think it could have been a lot better if it actually dived more into the characters' emotions, like other than just Hermione. Which, like I said, like Hermione's parts are the best parts. But like if it would have dealt more with Harry's like weird sense of maybe feeling isolated in the game, and yet at the same time talking to all these other players and chatting, because he can chat with other players in the game and see that, but it's not his friends mostly or that. But at the same time, building a sense of community with these different people. I don't really get it. Like, there are good points to this story. Obviously, Hermione's, again, I was saying it again, Hermione's part's the best part. But another thing that I think works really well is it doesn't fall into the pitfall of most like power up stories by having long extended training sessions or exposition. It basically skips all that and just shows like, oh hey, like at a later point now he's level 20, that's where he gets his mount, or now he's 40 and he's learned some cool spells, now he's 60 going to Outland and doing stuff. And it's just like we just get points where we see good stuff happening, and I feel like that's the best way to show powering up. But overall, what this really just feels like is the skeleton of a good story. It feels like the outline, like not like the outline is there, like this is the outline, and then the author would come back and then fill in all the extra parts with the extra scenes of emotion and dialogue, because all the action beats and story beats are there. Now it's time to fill out the rest and actually make it a world worth investing in. And I think that's the main problem with the story. There's other minor issues, like hell, the ending of the story is really weird. Like it literally, like he gets back and then all stuff is happening. Then they go to do the Voldemort fight, and once Harry kills him, it's just like, oh my god, so Voldemort's actually dead? Yep. And that's it. That's like literally the line it ends on. It's like, whoa, like that's weird. It might have been interesting. It would have been interesting. Not might, no might. It would have been much more interesting to have like at least one more chapter of an epilogue to see how Harry deals with this, or how the Wizarding World deals with Harry. Maybe Hermione and Harry's relationship, because they've grown close both in the game and now the worry of him being gone for so long. Or the fact that Harry is now essentially an immortal super wizard from World of Warcraft who, can basically destroy the Wizarding World with a snap of his fingers. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's there, but it just feels like there's no epilogue. Like it feels like either there's a chapter missing, or like it's like the ending of The Sopranos where it just cut with the middle of a scene. I did enjoy it a bit, like mainly like I've said again and again, the Hermione scenes, but I think this could have been so much better, and to me it's like a 6 out of 10, and it's not gonna stay on my list. Alright, next story is The Grand Sorceress Louise by Dalknexus. And this is a Familiar Zero crossover with a bunch of stuff, really. The main thing is Magicka, but there's a bunch of other things as well. So this one is another... Louise makes a screw up at the summoning ceremony, but instead of summoning Saito, she ends up like in the void between dimensions, meets a god, and the god just downloads a whole bunch of knowledge into her head, mainly about like a lot of pop culture references as well, but a couple bits of magic are thrown in there. The main system is again Magicka. Like the crossover from Magicka is one, the random insanity, but also the actual casting system. Like that's what Louise now uses, and so she's pretty intelligent that way. And aside from that, it's just a lot of fun with just these mashup of weird pop culture references, and just randomness going on that fits Magica's tone. There's nothing super substantial. Doesn't get very far. Barely gets past the um, the robbery section. But I found a bunch of laps that I enjoyed, and I found myself chuckling the entire time I was reading this. So I would definitely come back to this, and it's gonna stay on my list. We got a couple more. Next one is Brutal Harry by LordsFire, another Harry Potter fanfic. And this author writes this story of a more broken and withdrawn Harry. Um, he's very much abused as a kid, and unlike the relatively well adjusted Harry that shows up in canon, he's kind of a lot more gun shy, and the portrayal's kind of heartbreaking, of a broken psyche Harry. Um, but at the same time, it gives the reader hope because Harry begins to fix himself as the story goes on, and I just found it to be super riveting, uh, with both emotionally and with the good number of action and fight scenes that were in there. Um, this story finishes at the end of Harry's fourth year with the end of the Triwizard Tournament, and there is a sequel up that is completed as well. So not only is it a great story, but you can get a whole complete experience, which I think is super amazing. I found this to be really, really great. And it's really the emotional bits of seeing Harry grow back into a more well-adjusted, not normal, but more well-adjusted human, and that's where it really gets me, and the relationship bits, and I love this story, and it's gonna stay on my list. More Harry. We're gonna stick with Harry Potter right now with Hermione Song by D.W. Duck, and this is a Harry Potter crossover with Doctor Who. And this is where the 11th Doctor, shows up in Diagon Alley just before Harry's sixth year, and this sucks him into the wizarding world and all its problems, as he ends up finding a whole bunch of connections to his past that he thought were long gone. The title gives away a pretty big spoiler, but a bunch of the other pieces of the Doctor's past get displayed, such as his daughter from Tennant, and a scarecrow from the Family of Blood section during the 10th Doctor's run. It's a bunch of fun. It's not just one adventure. There's a bunch of adventures that happen. It's basically where the Doctor is now adopts Hermione and Harry as companions for a bit, and goes through essentially a season with them, while constantly coming back to the wizarding world and dealing with them there. The problem is it ends on a rather large cliffhanger, and sequel setup, but at the same time, this really feels like the first act of the story rather than the whole story in and of itself. Still, it's pretty fun. The adventures are fun, and the sequel is complete in its own right, so that's makes it fun. I did enjoy it, seeing the Doctor and Hermione having fun, Harry getting his times to shine in a off kilter way, seeing them go to the past and deal with some famous people. I found it to be really enjoyable, and it's gonna stay on my list. All right. Next, a non Harry Potter fic. Hey, something new. This one is a Torchwood and Sherlock, the BBC Sherlock crossover called Temps by Human Tales, and this is it's a one shot that takes basically it's a bunch of snippets over a long period of time of where Sherlock and Dr. Watson basically work as temp hires at Torchwood when they're down a doctor. It's a whole bunch of scenes where they solve a couple alien, like small bits where they solve a bunch of alien problems. Um, it's not really bad, but there's nothing substantial because it's all very very short bits that we're seeing. Like many things, it works. It's like a recap episode for a season that we just did not see, or like a greatest hits collection of the season. Um, it's a little hard to follow because there's no line breaks, so you don't know when a segment ends or like when something's transitioned until you read enough to realize it's somewhere else. Um, Time jumps happen, not just scene transitions. I think it's fine. I just think it should have been fleshed out more. It just feels like basically this is like not even half, like I'd say like a quarter of a full story that the person just chopped up and got rid of the other scenes. Uh, it's okay, but I honestly wasn't super enthralled. I wouldn't come back to this, and it's not going to stay on my list. All right, last one for this video, and this is related back to the previous video. So in the previous video, it was 6 stories technically because there are 6 different. He would release it as 6 different stories, but it's really one story. The last video I talked about the Pony Psychology series, and that was the 6 stories that made up the main thing. And this one is an epilogue to that story, one of 3 epilogue chapters that the author had written and released later. This one's called Alicorns Blame, like Alicorns Blame by Saddle Soap Opera, and it's interesting. It follows Luna and Celestia. It takes place both before and after, or both during the events of the series and after the events, to kind of give more of an explanation for why Luna and Celestia were acting the way they were during the series. It's interesting. I didn't enjoy it as much as the others, although that may have been because of the little gap between me reading the others and me reading this one. But I think it is still a good addition to the series, and if you like the main story, you will enjoy this, especially if you read them all together. There were 2 more epilogue chapters added to this, and there is a sequel. I believe the sequel is on my list. I don't think the other 2 epilogue chapters were put on my list, but I did enjoy this. Again, it's basically, if you liked the idea and the theme and the tone of the Pony Psychology series, this is more of that with a bit of explanation to get more of a feel of the 2 big ass alicorns. It's gonna stay on my list. And there we go. That's it for this video. If you like this video, please leave a like or comment. Links to all the stories are in the description down below, as well as a link to a forum where I post this, as well as and a playlist for all this stuff, and I'll link to my fanfiction.net profile if you want to just take a look at the stories that are gonna come over the next 2 years that I read. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to be notified when I post these, because I try to post these once a week, but it's not exactly consistent. I do it when I can, and I'm actually kind of running out of my backlog stuff, so I got to start reading more. I've been kind of taking a break and reading other stuff, so I haven't been progressing in my count. But yeah, please subscribe if you want to be notified, and thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.